Welcome to the Summer Thunder Podcast, the pagan podcast that gives the devil his due. Hi. In this episode, I'd like to look at some areas of concern for me personally in terms of the kind of pagan religious revival that I'd like to see happen. And I'd make no bones about it, I do want to see a pagan religious revival. I would like to see that, and I'd like to see us overcome the hold of monotheism. I basically see this as covering two areas. One is the area of religion, which is for the gods and spirits, and the other is the area of religion, which is for us humans, though they do of course overlap. So looking first at the area which is for the gods and spirits, one thing that I think is very important is that our religion should be based upon reliance upon the gods and the spirits. This should be an important thing for us. I think that as polytheists, this is very important. You find people saying, well, I don't really believe in the gods or the spirits, or I'm kind of skeptical, but, I'm a pagan, and, I just do what suits me, etc., etc. And, well, look, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but it's certainly not what I would consider to be paganism, in my view, not the way that I do it anyway, and it's not what speaks to me. Each to their own, but that's not how I would do it. I think that the relationship to the gods and the spirits is something which is very ancient with mankind, and it's something which we should never have lost, but which monotheism has really damaged. So I think this is one of the things that we need to bring back seriously and with sincerity. Now, linked to that, there is a place of devotion in spirituality and a place of devotion in religion, which is very, very important, I think. The gods want our devotion, I believe. They want our offerings. They want our love. These things all feed them, I believe. They strengthen them, and they help them to do the work that they wish to do. So I think this is important. And the relationship between gods and spirits and human beings is a very intimate, a very deep, and a very old one. Now, for all this to happen, I believe that we really need to roll back monotheism and what you might call post-monotheism. In other words, the survival of monotheist spirituality and worldview and morality in a apparently post-religious world. And I say apparently because I don't think it really is post-religious. I don't think there is such a thing as a post-religious world. Religion either becomes subconscious or semi-conscious, or it's there entirely, But I don't think there's any post-religious world. I think we need to definitely counteract and roll back monotheism, because I do believe it's an anti-spiritual force. It's cut us off from the other world. It's cut us off from the spirits. It's cut us off from direct relationship with the gods. It's cut us off from our own natures. And I think all of these things have to be overcome. And that involves more than just, say, repudiating Christianity or Islam or what have you. Because the monotheistic worldview has had such an important and such a dominant role in forming our modern view, even in opposition to it at times, like through the Enlightenment and things like this, I think it's very important that part of that rolling back of monotheism also involves the circumvention of what you might call modernity, or especially post-modernity. I think these things are veils, they are obscuring miasmas over real spirituality and over the possibility of paganism returning. So I think they have to be dispelled as well, and I feel that's a very important thing to understand, that modernity is not our friend, postmodernity is not our friend, and we need to understand that and repudiate these things, as well as simply things like monotheistic religion. Now, the other thing, of course, is that I think we need to revive and investigate what the old pagan worldview was, what their practices were, and things like this, so that we can bring back these things and rebuild these things where possible. So I think that's important as well. There may, of course, be things which no longer seem appropriate. Now that's possible. We just have to see, we just have to see how things should be, how that starts to emerge. But I do believe that looking into the past and seeing certainly how their worldview diverged from what we've been taught, and the nature of their practices and why they would have engaged in those practices, I think that's the important thing. One of the things that I think is important here is an investigation into the nature and development of oracular activity and practice. I think this is very important. The sort of stuff which nowadays tends to get termed channeling by the New Age, but I think we can look to the older forms of it to find out what people did and try and work out how they did it. I think this is very important because the gods are real, the spirits are real, and communication with them is very important for a living paganism, I believe. It's not just all about people recreating practices and building festivals and things like that. There is a spiritual core to these things, and that core is living and intelligent, and we need to be able to communicate with the intelligences and the entities at the heart of it. We can see a really stepped down version of this kind of activity in divination, which is a practice which has survived through the centuries and the millennia. And it's quite obviously a very old practice and a pagan practice. And divination is an opening up. It's the beginning of an opening up into what eventually leads to oracular work. So you can see that divination shades into forms of inspiration, and inspiration from the spirits, and ultimately inspiration from the gods, and how this will eventually go into more oracular work, eventually to full-on possession, which does occur in certain traditions to this day, such as in the Voodoo religions. Though it's also been explored in modern heathenry as well, for instance, and I believe also in certain forms of Wicca. Now, one area of overlap between the part of the religion which is for the gods and spirits and the part which is for the humans, one area which is a very explicit overlap, is the relationship to our kin who have joined the afterlife, or the greater life, if you like. I think it's very important to understand and bring back that sense of the interdependence and coexistence of the living and the dead, or as I like to call them, the free. I think this is a very, very important thing, that we get this understanding of the dead and of the shades, and that we understand the way that our lives are interwoven and interdependent. And this sense of our kin and the ancestors is, I think, also very important. Now, when we look at the part of religion which is really for human beings, there are again a few things which I find very important personally. One is that our religion should be a very practical religion. It should be able to deal with life and help us to deal with life effectively and happily, and to lead good lives and productive lives. So that's very important for me. And linked to that is the development of appropriate values and ethics. These things are really, really key to any kind of community life and to a stable life as an individual as well, because we are highly interdependent social animals. This is where things that usually get termed family values come in, though there may be better terms for these things. But certainly the position and the place of the family is important. The place of parents and children is very, very important in religion. And I certainly believe it's entirely natural to teach your children your religion. You would, of course, want to teach your children things which would help them to grow and to be protected spiritually and otherwise. So teaching children, I think, is an important thing, and finding the place of families within our religion is also undoubtedly important. Another quite obvious thing here is that any religion needs daily practice, and daily practice that is sustainable. I'm not sure how many pagans out there just call themselves pagan and hold certain beliefs and then just get on with their lives. It's all too easy to do in today's world with all the distractions and the pressures it involves and the dislocation from any sort of natural cycles. So it's understandable, but it's not good for any religion. You need daily practice that is sustainable. So it's good for us to start off with simple practices that we can build into our lives and build into our lives every single day. That's very important. Things like a celebration at the rising of the sun or upon rising in the morning. Just when you get up in the morning, if you have an what you might call an adoration of the sun, looking to the sun and making a celebration, looking towards the direction of the rising sun, looking towards the east, visualizing the sun rising, and declaring your admiration or praise for your gods, the spirits, the ancestors, nature spirits, whatever the sacred ecology involves for you. Make that connection at that time in the morning when you get up, and then feel the energy from that come back to you. That's a very good way of starting the day, for instance. Similarly, when it gets to the evening, you can light a candle on the altar. And don't make this magic. Make this a simple practice, just what it is. That's the best way to do things, I think. Make this a devotional, sober practice, which you can just do every single day. And start off with these simple things, but make them daily, make them so. They are the natural part of your life. They form the natural rhythm of your life. Now, another thing, of course, is prayer, and also meditation or contemplation. But prayer is very, very important. And I wonder nowadays how many people really even properly understand what prayer is, even in the, say, for instance, the old Christian context. Because all of these practices are actually very, very old and predate the monotheist religions. Prayer is important, in the different aspects of prayer. And, for instance, prayer is not just asking for things, it is also praising the gods. It's speaking from the heart to the gods, your love for them and your commitment to them. And is also a time to experience really the gratitude for what you have been given by the gods, and for the life you have, and for all of the inspiration and hope that you can gain in life now and going forward. Prayer is a very profound and very positive thing, and that's another thing. Our religion needs to be positive. It needs to be a very life-affirming and positive religion, not one that avoids the harshness of life or avoids the hardships or the dark things in life. But nevertheless, it needs to be positive. It needs to be something that helps us live well, helps us live good lives, and helps us live strong lives for our gods, for ourselves, and our loved ones. Anyway, I hope that was interesting for you. I hope it's maybe given you some ideas. And if anybody would like to contact the podcast, they can actually do on the email address summerthunder@yahoo.com. Thank you very much for listening, and speak to you soon.